y'all. So y'all remember back when Kamala Harris was running for the president, and she raised like 24, 25, 27 million, something like that, out of the blue within like 5 hours of her campaign. Remember, nobody was really rocking with her initially. But then when President Biden said that he decided that he wasn't going to run and that she had his full support, and then all of a sudden they raised that money, and that's what got everybody to start supporting her. Come to find out, it's allegedly a big money laundering scheme. ActBlue is a site that Democratic candidates use for their supporters to be able to donate money to their campaigns. Every campaign has a limit. For the presidency, I believe it's $5,000 per person can only donate to that campaign. Come to find out, Kamala Harris allegedly, we're saying allegedly because they're still gathering information, they're still putting the pieces together, was using this platform and possibly funneling money in from other countries. We are not allowed as candidates to accept money from any other country. So there's an elderly lady who made a couple contributions to Kamala Harris's campaign. She's on a fixed income, so of course she can only give so much, right? If you look through the records, come to find out they're saying that she made so many contributions here and there within, I want to say, a 5-month period or something like that, totaling almost $1 million. And there's a whole bunch of different people and instances like this. So one of the reporters went to this lady's house and asked her, hey, did you make these donations to Kamala's campaign? And she said, I donated a couple of times. And he said almost, 80 something million. She's like, no, I didn't donate that much because she ain't having to donate. So apparently this is how she raised the billion. The billion didn't come from supporters. The billions allegedly come from different countries. That might be where some of that you said money's coming from. They're digging, they're investigating now. Benny, he can explain it better to you guys than me. So take a look and then listen for yourselves.
ActBlue is a money laundering operation. We know that, and we can prove it. We want to start by getting in our little time machine, jumping back to the day that Kamala Harris, the original DEI stand-in for the hospice president, launched her campaign. Kamala Harris is someone that everybody loathed. Nobody liked her. She was not a liked person. To this day, there are humiliating videos of her just wandering around aimlessly in LA at basketball games and in grocery stores. Nobody even stops her for a selfie. Everyone's like trying to stay away from her. She's always been political toxicity. She was a DEI hire as a DEI body double for Joe Biden, who's in hospice. That's what it was. It was a hospice White House. Yet somehow, in a matter of hours, Kamala Harris is able to raise $27 million on her way to $2 billion in 100 days, which is very strange. Here we go.
We just got word from ActBlue, the fundraising platform that's been very effective in supporting the Democratic Party. Remember I said at the beginning that sound that you're hearing is the sounds of pens scratching on checks? Quote, small dollar donors raise over $27.5 million on ActBlue in the first 5 hours of Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. $27.5 million just on ActBlue, just in the first 5 hours. ActBlue says, quote, grassroots supporters are energized and excited to support her as the Democratic nominee.
Let's go ahead and check out some of those Kamala donors. They're so excited to donate to her. They reached, Kamala Harris was so inspiring. They reached deep into their pockets and they gave so many times to Kamala. Like Carrie Alberti, who's a 79-year-old living in Richmond, Virginia. Carrie Alberti is 80 years old. She lives on a fixed income. She's in government housing, you see. She lives in an impoverished area. She's never been rich. She's totally retired. And, she just happened to donate 22,000 times to Democrats. Totaling nearly $1 million. So this person in rent-controlled housing has just $1 million cash on hand to donate. Donated to Kamala Harris. Donated in very small little amounts. But $1 million. $839,466 to be exact. How'd that happen? What exactly is going on with Carrie Alberti? That doesn't make any sense. And there's more. There's a lot more. Ghost donors all throughout the system, with people who are on fixed incomes or living in government housing, donating hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to Democrat candidates through ActBlue. There's something really interesting that happens here. And I can't wait for Chairman Comer to talk about it because he has a banking background, but ActBlue doesn't require the CCV code on your credit card. So as soon as they get somebody's name and address, they can start funneling money based on that name and address to any person they want. There is no verification for this. This has been proven on camera. It's not just speculation by me. James O'Keefe went up to one of the donors, one of the mega donors. Wait till you see this mega donor's lavish mansion, and asked, hey, did you donate millions of times to Democrats? Let's watch.
FEC data shows that some senior citizens across the U.S. have been donating thousands of times per year. Some of these individuals' names and addresses are attached to over $200,000 in contributions. We went and knocked on a few of their doors to corroborate the data that we received. We're wondering if these donors are victims of what appears to be a money laundering scheme. Cindy No of Annapolis, Maryland, who in the year 2022 allegedly contributed over 1,000 times to Act Blue, totaling $18,849.77. That means Cindy would have had to donate 3 times a day, every day, for the whole year. My name's James O'Keefe, and we're doing a story on the number of people that have donated. You did donate to ActBlue, right?
Once in a while.
What about $18,850?
No, I don't think so.
You know people are using your address?
I don't think so.
It's just money laundering. It's just fraud. And now the entire system is collapsing. The New York Times, ladies and gentlemen, Act Blue, the Democrat fundraising powerhouse, faces internal chaos. Act Blue, the online fundraising organization that powers Democratic candidates. There is no substitute, by the way. This is the game. This is the only organ for Democrat fundraising that exists. Has plunged into turmoil, with at least 7 senior directors resigning late last month and a remaining lawyer suggesting he face internal retaliation. The departures from Act Blue, which help raise money for Democrats running for office at all levels of government, come as the group is under investigation by congressional Republicans. They have advanced legislation that some Democrats warn could be used to debilitate the party's lead fundraising operation. The exodus has set off deep concerns about Act Blue's future. Last week, 2 union representatives, the group's workers, sent a blistering letter to Act Blue's board of directors that listed 7 officials who had left. The letter described an alarming pattern of departures, eroding the confidence and stability of the organization. What prompted so many longtime Act Blue officials to leave is not clear. None of the former officials agreed to be interviewed on the record. Oh, I can tell you exactly what is happening. They're being criminally investigated. This is what's going on. The lawyer, the last lawyer that was left as counsel for Act Blue, was locked out of his computer after sending an ominous email about whistleblowers and people having their NDAs shredded. There is a massive internal scandal that is happening here, and we think we know where it all points to. This is not the behavior of a healthy, functioning organization. This is the behavior of people that are fleeing federal prosecution or potentially cutting deals. Act Blue knows that its donations are fraudulent. They know where the money actually comes from, and they help source that money, sometimes from terrorist groups, sometimes from foreign nationals. They have committed obscene crimes on the hedge that Democrats would hold power forever. Let me explain how this all happens. And Elon Musk, Alex, if you wouldn't mind grabbing me that Elon Musk tweet that verified this is what he's finding at Doge. The reason why these people are leaving is the actual process of FBI investigations and charges. The way that this happens is not typically in public. What normally happens is the FBI investigates, and they do it in a sealed manner. They seal their charges. They are able to get courts to hear those charges in closed settings and to continue their investigations, eventually tightening around various individuals and then dropping the charges when the table has been completely set. However, throughout the process, you notify certain individuals that they are under indictment, that they are under subpoena, and that they are effed. Those people behave very much in a guilty manner if they are guilty, and that's exactly what's happening at Act Blue. What are they guilty of? Check out this post from Elon Musk, who's the person investigating all of this. The original post that he's quote tweeting says, "We're taxed. Our money goes to USAID. USAID funds a left-wing non-government organization. What we always use here is Build Schools in Kenya. Okay, let's just call it the Build Schools in Kenya organization. That organ gets $1 billion of our tax money. All of that $1 billion stays in Northern Virginia in the DMV. It goes to Bill Kristol or Samantha Power or whatever Barack Obama, Joe Biden goon that happens to be running it. They pay themselves $500 million in salary for their troubles that year, and then they funnel that money through Act Blue. Now, you might say, hold on, $500 million, like, aren't there limits for federal donations? Doesn't matter who you are, how rich you are. You have like $5,000 limits. You have like $1,000 limit. Depends on the race. But there are limits, right? One person can only donate so much. That's where the magic of Act Blue comes in. Act Blue creates a system where they have ghost donors, millions of them, potentially people who've just like donated $5 at one time. They steal their data, they steal their information, and then they plow millions, maybe tens of millions of dollars through a massive tree of ghost donors. And they were able to then funnel taxpayer dollars from the government directly into the campaigns of people that keep voting for USAID money and keep voting for this fraudulence. Of course they would. It's the self-licking ice cream cone. We believe that that's what's been uncovered. And Act Blue is really, really in a bad place right now. The New York Times writes, if Act Blue were to become severely diminished, Democrats running for office at all levels of government could face setbacks in their efforts to raise cash. Candidates for office ranging from school board to city councils to the presidency rely on the platform for their online fundraising. Republicans have spent years trying to catch up. And while there are some alternatives to the platform, none of them are on the scale or reach of Act Blue, meaning that none of them have been able to funnel more than $16 billion. How'd you get $16 billion? Democrats don't work. They don't donate. They're not particularly generous people. Really makes you wonder. Congressional Republicans have demanded answers from Act Blue about its security and fraud prevention measures, as well as how the group prevents certain foreign donors from illegally contributing to candidates. The letter from Act Blue unions warned the group was under increasing scrutiny and the target of bad faith political attacks at the hand of ill-intentioned operators. Oh, okay, sure. Got it. Act Blue has been called out, and we believe that they have been caught. This is a massive grift, and it's something that clearly is going to lead to wholesale collapse. Got just one more fascinating little bit here from a man who's now currently in charge of USAID. He made a lot of news about a year ago. The guy's name is Marco Rubio. Back when he was a senator, before he was Secretary of State, Rubio said, here's how the money laundering operation works. Let's go.
In the back of everyone's credit card, we get asked for it all the time. There's this code called the CVV code, and it allows you to track that account and where it's located. You can donate money, thousands of dollars to Act Blue without your CVV code on it. And so I want to pass a law that requires that all these online donations using credit cards require a CVV, so we can make sure that that person is actually in the United States and eligible to contribute. Otherwise, you could have some credit card in China basically putting millions of dollars in small dollar donations into political campaigns in America. Act Blue has become a money laundering operation, and because they don't take the CVV. It's a deliberate strategy on their part. We should have a law that closes that. I've been trying to get it passed, and as you can imagine, the reason the Democrats oppose it is because Act Blue opposes it. Because if they had to put CVVs, if they had to use that code from their credit card, their donations would go.
I think you're onto something, Senator.
So that never really went anywhere, but now Republicans are fighting back. And the more you look into it, the darker and worse it gets. One final little chart here, an absolute stunner. Where did the USAID money go to? You know that 40% of the GDP of Somalia, Ilhan Omar's homeland, was USAID money? Do you understand the incentive here? Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Liberia, Uganda. Some of the most corrupt nations on earth with some of the most unstable governments. Literal warlords in charge. A quarter to nearly half of their economy was USAID money. How corrupt was USAID? Man. And how much of that taxpayer dollar went straight through to funding the opponents for, let's say, James Comer, chairman of the Oversight Committee. Ooh, baby. Jamie Comer, I know, is like a bulldog on this one. We call him the bulldog, and he's joining us live now. Chairman Comer, I got to tell you, man, this thing is just rotten. It's just rotten. I don't know if we have the direct evidence just yet, but man, you sure can put the pieces together and say that Act Blue must be one of the largest money laundering organs this side of the Biden family.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how we're going to investigate this. The same way we investigated the Bidens. We're starting with the suspicious activity reports. These are the bank violations that if anyone commits a financial crime, the banks will catch it. I come from a banking background, and I can tell you there are extensive security measures in place. The banks have auditors, they have compliance officers, they have bank examiners. They catch suspicious activity, and especially if it's on a large scale and lots of different transactions. So what I tried to do, this was back during last summer, was request the suspicious activity reports from Janet Yellen in the Biden administration, and they would not reply to my request. We knew that Act Blue was getting just a ridiculous amount of money going through. Heck, my opponent that I beat by 50 points raised, several $100,000 on Act Blue, and she had zero chance. If you ranked the races from 1 to 435, that wouldn't rank in the top 400 as having the potential to win. But she was still getting all these mysterious donations. And you had House candidates that 80% of their campaign budget came from anonymous small dollar donors on Act Blue. So we smelled something. Obviously, it came out what Rubio said, that they weren't using the code on the back of the credit card. That allowed for fraud. It just didn't make sense. Like the interviewer, like the woman that was interviewed on that clip that's had $180,000 worth of donations. So we requested these violations. They wouldn't give them to us. After the election, then Janet Yellen let a few of my staffers go in there, and they said, yes, there are several hundred suspicious activity reports from various banks. We got to go in and look at 12. And I can tell you, they were bad. They were what we suspected. And we've requested to see more. They cut us off. Obviously, they were involved in the transition and all that. Now we've got a new Treasury Secretary. We're supposed to go in there in the next week or so and examine them all. But I can tell you, there's enough that we've seen already from media reports and from the few bank violations that we've already looked at, that a lot of our worst theories are going to be confirmed with respect to Act Blue. And that's why so many people are hitting the exits right now at Act Blue.
Really? So it's your investigation that is spurring on this panic? Because I've seen this organization, I've seen Act Blue operate for decades, and I've never seen anything like this. Everyone's left, all the leadership's gone, the lawyers are fleeing. I mean, listen, man, when the lawyers are fleeing and getting locked out of their computers and sending threatening messages about whistleblowers, you're cooked, right?
You are, and I'm going to tell you what my theory on this.
Please.
When you showed that clip of MSNBC saying, within 5 hours, we've raised $27 million. What a movement. You know, that this goes back to the Biden investigation, where the people that were protecting Biden would collude with the mainstream media, and they would send them exactly what to say, exactly what to print. The headlines would come out anytime we were about to do a deposition. And lo and behold, everywhere from the New York Times to MSNBC would have the exact same headline. You know, they just all mysteriously, word for word, the exact same headline saying no evidence, the deposition was a failure, even before we would swear the witness in. And they got together to collude with the media saying, oh my gosh, look at every Democrat in the United States is sitting at home right now on their computer making numerous $100 donations to Kamala Harris, and all the Democrats running in the purple seats all across the United States and in the Senate races that are competitive. And when you know the media all comes out of the gate at the same time, you know, saying the exact same thing, then that's collusion. And that's whoever's behind the curtain, whoever was calling the shots at the White House, whoever was colluding with the media to disinform their viewers about whether it be Act Blue or the Biden's finances, that's where the money's going to come from. And I think we know some familiar names that are probably going to be at the root of this when it's all said and done. So
what you're alleging here, Mr. Chairman, is that this is the largest money laundering scam in the history of American politics.
Well, it could be, but I will tell you, it doesn't make sense. And if Act Blue, we've been requesting information from Act Blue for months now. If they were innocent, they would be going on TV trashing me. They would be calling me a conspiracy theorist, just like they did in the Biden investigation. But they're not saying anything, and they're leaving, and their lawyers are leaving. And when the lawyers leave, you know, that's a pretty good sign that something bad's going on there.
So we don't need to speculate. We have the receipts. And I'd just like to read through just a single one of them, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Chairman. Carrie Alberti, not trying to pick on this sweet 80-year-old woman from Richmond, Virginia. She lives in a rent-controlled apartment, $2,000 a month. It's got to just be like a very humble little place there. Mm-hmm. Richmond's a nice city, nothing wrong with it. But hey, listen, you know, she just happens to be an 80-year-old on a fixed income, surely on Social Security, not living large. 22,619 donations in the last 500 days, Mr. Chairman, totaling $800,397. This is an enormous amount of money. We just rounded up to nearly $1 million donated by this little old lady on the fixed income. Right. How's that possible exactly?
Well, she'd have to have a pretty big credit card limit to be able to do that, because you do it through credit cards and or wire transfers or whatever. But whether it's through a credit card or whether it's through a wire transfer to Act Blue, there's a bank. It starts at a bank. That's the key to money laundering. It has to start out at a bank. Some bank has to do the transaction, and some entity has to collect the money. So it's a bank. And if that bank, if it's the same bank or numerous banks, they're going to catch suspicious activity. Here's an old lady that's her average credit card bill is $350 a month, but suddenly she's putting $15,000 a month in ActBlue donations on there. The banks will flag that. And all that information sitting in Treasury, and you're like, well, what's it doing in Treasury? FBI is supposed to look at it, all this stuff. So there very well could be an investigation by the FBI. They could have started it long before the Trump administration started. But at the end of the day, I think what you're going to see here is there was a cover-up, just like what we found with the Bidens. It wasn't just the Biden crime. It was the government cover-up. And you and I have talked about it several times, Benny. What you're going to see here with ActBlue is that there were agencies in the federal government that knew that all this money was being laundered into ActBlue. It's not humanly possible to raise that much money. There aren't enough Democrats in the United States to make that many donations, to add up to the billions and billions of dollars.
Yes.
It's not possible.
Yes.
So that right there is a red flag. And I think the sheer number of bank violations that have been submitted to Treasury is another red flag.
Even though in polling shows this consistently over decades, that the left is not a generous clan. That they are not generous people by nature. They like to fancy themselves as bleeding heart, but they actually aren't. When it comes to reaching in your pocketbook and donating to causes, conservatives are twice as likely to donate, maybe because they're twice as likely to have the extra capital around to donate because they're more successful and talented. But who knows? The point is that they just don't donate. This does not follow donation patterns. And so to sort of hook into your last point, what you're alleging here, Mr. Chairman, is that the corporate media creates a fake story that gives the cover, the illusion, the magic trick to say that Democrats are so Twitter-pated over Kamala Harris that they're just forking over billions.
Absolutely.
Right? It's a fake story. And what that does is it is a mask to cover the money laundering that's happening by maybe a few key individuals or foreign entities, or who the hell knows, somebody in China, somebody in Iran, that is actually funneling through donors. Am I getting this correct? Because I don't have a banking background. Funneling through donors, small dollar donors, all of these donations.
Yeah, it has to start with a credit card or a bank wire. So hopefully we'll be able to start tracing, and it's going to take a lot. It's going to, it's very complicated to trace a laundering scheme, a shady financial scheme. And we were just tracing one family, and it took a long time because it went through a lot of those shell companies and this and that. I don't think you're going to find shell companies here. You're going to find credit cards. And again, because they didn't have that code that Marco Rubio was talking about, it made it easier to do. People say, okay, this is a credit card. It's in Benny Johnson's name, but it's really not in Benny Johnson's name. But this credit card, with a $10,000 limit, on the first day it's issued, $10,000 gets charged to on the credit card to all to the same entity in tons and tons and tons of $10, $25 increments. That is a red flag, and the banks will catch that. So that's where we're going to go with our investigation. And we tried to do this before the November election, but the Biden administration would not cooperate with us. They would not cooperate with us. But by the media saying that, remember when Kamala Harris. When Joe Biden filed for re-election, the Democrats wanted to get rid of Kamala Harris. They wanted to put someone else on the ticket because she was an ineffective vice president. Nobody liked her. She couldn't keep staff. She had the highest staff turnover of anybody in the history of the vice presidency. And yet, when Joe Biden, after the debate, they realized they had to get rid of him, and they couldn't get rid of Kamala because that would look bad. She was a female and she was a minority, and that went against everything that they said with DEI and all of that other stuff. They came up with this. Okay, let's say there's just this mass movement of support for her, and $27 billion comes in, over all this money, or $27 million comes in just overnight, and the momentum starts, and the media goes with it. Oh, look at this! This is a grassroots movement like we've never seen. People are giving every penny they have to see that Kamala Harris is president of the United States. There was no excitement for Joe Biden, but now everybody's excited about Kamala Harris. I have seen this play out time and time again, where the media, the liberal media, colludes with some Wizard of Oz character that was operating the auto pen in the White House, signing all the executive orders. Someone is telling them what to print to make it look like, the Democrats are have all the momentum and the Republicans are tanking.
Right. And the easiest way to do that is to show record fundraising numbers that nobody could possibly track.
Right.
Even though every time I go to a gas station that's not my normal gas station, my bank sends me an immediate text message. Is this you? Is this fraudulent?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The banks catch it. The banks will catch it always.
Yeah.
Every time.
Final question on this topic, and then one or two more places I want to go with this. Do you have any have you asked Cash? I know you were very close with Cash. Have you asked him if there's an open FBI investigation into this?
Yeah.
Do you have any confirmation that there's like heavier federal force being weighed upon Act Blue?
Yeah, I promise, Cash, I won't talk about our conversations on interviews, but I'll just say this. I have 100% confidence in Cash Patel, and I am so excited. I just light up when anyone mentions Cash Patel's name because I've had to deal with Christopher Wray for the last 2.5 years. You know, Cash Patel is a breath of fresh air, and I think that we got the right guy in there. That's all I can say about that.
Okay, so on a sort of broader scale, Mr. Chairman, could we see federal charges? I mean, is this the point right here? Because clearly these are huge crimes.
Well, I'll tell you, we'll turn over a report once we go through all those bank violations. And again, those aren't common, like the media would said about the Biden suspicious activity reports. It's not common for a bank to file those suspicious activity reports. And when you get hundreds of them, then there's a pattern of bad behavior there. So we'll go through those as quick as we can once we get in there. And like I said, I think we'll be in there hopefully within the next 2 weeks, hopefully within the next week. And we'll start going through all those. We'll issue a report and turn it over to the FBI and the Department of Justice, and we'll see what happens there. Because there's just a lot of things, especially if it's foreign money. My subpoenas don't work overseas. If they did, we would have gone a lot further in the Biden investigation. You've got to have the FBI, the CIA, and the Department of Justice on board to crack the code of a lot of what's going on with the Clinton Foundation, with the Bidens, with Act Blue. I really believe you're going to find offshore accounts and things like that no congressional committee. Once you get offshore, you don't have any juice. But those federal agencies do, and unfortunately, during the last 2 years, we've had the Merrick Garland Department of Justice. Now we've got the Pam Bondi Department of Justice in the Trump administration, and a guy like Cash Patel and a guy like John Radcliffe at CIA. So hopefully we can get some answers here. And if we do this totally takes down the Democrat parties we know it. Not only are they, lost in the wilderness, they have no issues or platforms other than they hate Donald Trump. If it is proven that they were cheating with these donations from bad people in bad countries like the Biden family money, then I think a lot of people are gonna walk away from the Democrat Party, because there are good Democrats in America that do believe in what the Democrat Party used to stand for. But I think this will be the final straw.
You're cooked. You don't have any party anymore.
That's right.
You don't have a functional Democrat. They'll have to rebuild. It'll be like a Hiroshima moment. They'll have to just rebuild from the ashes.
Yep.
If Act Blue goes down and if people go to prison, if there are frog marches for like hundreds of Act Blue executives and accountants and people that knew about this, it's gone. The data and the value of that, it's gone. I mean, it's
the value of that data and Act Blue alone. You get rid of that, the Democrat Party has no. I mean, it's over. It's over.
One thing about them Republicans, they're gonna bring a receipt. They are on top of them receipts, and they're gonna make sure they got their receipts in place. I's dotted, T's crossed. You understand me? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below.